Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our second stakeholder meeting this week. Today is June 3rd, and we're here to talk about proposed changes to Chapter 45 that would go into effect on September 1st. For those of you who were here yesterday for our discussion of fee rules, thank you for coming back again. And to all of you, thank you for participating in this process. As always, this is a starting point for these rule changes, and we are open to your suggestions. That's why we're here today. Just by a note of introduction, what we've done here in Chapter 45, if you'll look at the documents in the inboard docs, there's a crosswalk that really shows you what the true changes are. So there's some changes from sunset. Obviously, we've got beer and ale consolidation, and we've got changes due to changes in the permit and license regime. In Rule 4541, we've added the requirement for malt beverages to include the ABV on the label. The other large category of changes are a set of advertising rules that we had previously, as of December 2020, in our last round of Chapter 45 changes, we had repealed those. And upon reflection, we realized that it's best for us to keep those in our rules. They are federal requirements. They're things that you're doing anyway, and things that have been in our rules for years. It's best to keep them in our rules just for enforceability and so that people aren't having to go to federal rules to look for those. So we've decided to go ahead and put those back in. And the only changes to those would be for clarity or consolidation and the usual things that that we do every time we visit a rule. Just try to make it better any way we can. So that's kind of the big stuff, and very little of that is truly substantive. So I'm just going to open it up to your comments and questions right now. This time and space is yours, and you're welcome to talk about, we're not going to go through rule by rule, so if you just want to raise your hand and we'll call on you, and you can talk about whichever rules you have comments or questions about. You're welcome to type into the chat if you're having any trouble with the sound or anything like that. We can see it in the chat here too. Or if you just don't really want to speak up, the chat function is open for you. Okay. So we'll just, for a few minutes, we want to give it a few minutes to make sure that we don't have anybody coming on later that wants to make a comment. So the ABV rule, like I said, it's 4541 A1C and subsection C. They implement the new statutory requirement that malt beverage product labels include the ABV. And what we've done there is we put a schedule in for so that cans and bottles that have already been printed can be used up. There's a little bit of time to use them up after September 1st, trying to minimize any waste. So that schedule that we put in there, it mirrors the schedule for the other label changes that we all agreed on for December. So it's going to be the same as your other label changes. You'll have some time to use up what you've got, and then you'll need to add your ABV. Are there any questions about that schedule in 45.41C?
Shana, with that, we're going to allow people that are already in the market, as long as they don't make any changes to their labels between now and September 1st, 2023, they can continue to have those in there. And then by September 1st, 2023, they'll need to update their labels and put that ABV on there.
Right, so 2 years.
2 years, yeah. If they make any changes between now and then that requires a new COLA, then they'll need to make that change at that time and resubmit label approval once they receive that new COLA. But otherwise, everybody's going to have 2 years to get that done.
not seeing any questions. I would, oh, here we go. Will there be further changes between the time the proposal before the June 15th commission meeting and September 1st? So if we don't receive any comments or questions, and I don't think there will probably be any changes to this before proposal. Once the rule is proposed, it will be published in the Texas Register, and then there's a 30-day comment period. Again, if we receive questions and comments during that comment period, there can be changes. And before the next agenda, if those changes are substantive, it could require republishing for proposal. But I don't think that we have any. I don't think there's anything in here that could be really substantive that could be changed, because these are all sort of updates. And we need to get this done by September 1st, so that once the transition happens, our rules are in place, and that way people aren't confused. So theoretically, since we're not getting any questions right now, if things go as planned, then there shouldn't be any changes, but there are opportunities for changes. And so if you don't have any questions or comments today, but you think of something later, there is time.
Greetings all. You can always leave it to Amy to ask the question that nobody else wants to ask. How are you this morning? Can we get to 45-121 and see if can you just discuss that a little bit?
Sure. So this advertising standards required, this was Rule 4511 that was repealed with our big Chapter 45 overhaul last year. So it's not anything new. Do you want to talk about it?
Sure. So Amy, most of these things that are in this, they're not anything new. They were part of our older rules. And then when we did the recent update, where we started using the federal COLA really as our standard and what we were working off of, our rules already mirrored the federal language on these, on the advertising regulations. And we thought we were going to be able to just utilize our COLA process and the fact that we have to rely on the federal regs to enforce these advertising standards. But after doing some research, we realized, we really need these in our own rules. We can't use the federal regs for that. So we put them back in, essentially. And this is the same language that was in the federal laws about advertising and what's in the actual labeling advertising laws now on the federal side. We, again, had rules almost identical to this always in our rule book. They hadn't been updated to mirror with some of the federal changes over the last several years. So this lets us do that and stick it in these rules. So it really just mirrors those federal changes, those federal rules. And it's more of an update to what we had in our rules prior to December of last year. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you, Thomas.
And if there's any of these that we've added back in, like I said, if we needed to make changes to make it clearer or update it, for example, this advertising standards required, I believe we added internet and email just to update it to modern times, as those are obviously big methods of marketing these days. But what I can do, if you have any questions about comparing the old and the new one, I can certainly send the rules as they existed before, just to make that comparison easier for you. So let me know if any of y'all out there want any of those prior rules, so you can do a direct comparison. But there are no changes that are other than for clarity and conciseness, and then to update to our modern technology. Are there any other
Quick question, I'm sorry. 45-126, 3.
That's something that we pulled out of the federal regs on that. So it does apply there. And that's how the Fed's treated as well.
I think that would have been 40 prior, and this was in our prior rules as well. So 4515I prior to the repeals on December 20th.
Thank you.
see the whole list, but I guess if someone unmutes, it goes to the top. You think I'd know that by now? Okay, here's a question on the chat. 45131C1. Did COVID change the necessity of needing the signature in light of social distancing? Let's look at it. The only changes that we made to this rule were for beer and ale consolidation and permit regime changes. So we did not make any changes related to required signatures. However, it's my understanding that a signature can be electronic.
We have been treating it that way and let it work. So if you've got an electronic signature, we've been accepting those. It's something that we discussed, should we get rid of the signature requirement, but the way that possession takes place, we needed that acknowledgement from the retailer and we needed that signature. But again, electronic signature would work.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we've seen a record of that transaction when it happens. That signature is kind of how we mark that. But we recognize that people do business online these days. Pardon me.
In 45-130, if you go all the way down, I hope I can find it again. In that rule, it refers to a business day again in K. And I just point out that, you know, if we keep saying a business day and we're going to Ames is a business day, 5 o'clock is a business day, midnight. What is a business day?
I'll make a note of that. I think with business days, it's just Monday through Friday. That's not a holiday.
Yeah.
Rather than being, when we talk about it, yeah, when it says regular business day, it's talking about just the day of the week, not any particular time. So, yeah, this is for a due date. So the due date would be the next Monday through Friday, unless that maybe, you know, like last Monday was a holiday. So that wouldn't have been a regular business day.
So that business day doesn't end at 5 p.m. A business day for a bar owner ends at 11:59 p.m.
Right.
So
that's the date. Yeah. So it's 11:59 would be the time that would end the regular business day.
Great.
That's the end of the day.
Right. And Amy, I mean, that's the date for submitting payment to be able to calculate time into their cash credit law rules. So I do think that timing may just depend on the form of payment that you're making. Obviously, if you're doing it through an electronic transaction, that could happen at 11:58 and it would still make the time. If you're sending a check in the mail, though, obviously, then there's going to be kind of maybe some delays with doing anything after 5 p.m. because the post office is going to be closed.
Good point, Nikki. Thank you.
Other questions and comments? I would say speak now or forever hold your peace, but really speak now or speak later. We're open to communicate for anytime you'd like. So. Okay. The what? The grace period. Oh, no. Okay. Well, there are no further questions. Is it raining there? Not yet. It's very dark outside. In fact, I think I just saw lightning.
We wouldn't be standing outside with golf clubs, we'll leave it at that.
All right, well, if there's nothing else about this chapter 45 rule package, then we will go ahead and close this meeting for today. Again, thank you all for being here. Thank you for your work in reviewing the rules and helping us make sure they're in the best shape they can be when they go to the commissioners for proposal. I am always open to talk about any of these. You can email your comments to rules@tabc.texas.gov, or you can call me at 512-206-3451. And we will talk to y'all again soon. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.